Lord forgive me for this trap shit. Sergeant Smack make it backflip. Telly Hank with the action. With the vital speaking Spanish. Frank Matthews, how I vanish. Poof. Came back like I'm King Tut. Gold BBS is on a beamer. When Fat Cat was 10 queens up. Ball off the profit, not the re-up. Fly like Puerto Rican Jesus. Uptown like I'm Baby May. Just caught a touchdown from the bay.
Want to know what I do now? I sell guns.
You're listening to a wiretap obtained by the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office. On it, Michael Bassier has just stepped off a bus to the city bragging to his ex-girlfriend about a duffel bag bulging with guns.
I've got 2 MAC-10s on me, a SK assault rifle, and 4 handguns, and I'm walking through New York.
He explains the simplicity of his gun-running scheme from Georgia up the iron pipeline to New York City.
I'm selling them the right way and the wrong way. When I'm out of state, like in Atlanta and Georgia and all that, it's all legal, it's fully legal, but New York is completely illegal. So when I bring it up here and sell it up here, that's illegal.
Guns don't come from New York. They come along I-95. They come from states with lax gun laws.
The guns are here, and they keep coming with devastating consequences.
And I'm sad in my heart, Dan, as a mother who lost 2 kids to gun violence.
Illegal firearms curried up Interstate 95, known as the Iron Pipeline, from Florida to Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, Pennsylvania, delivering weapons to big cities up and down the coast.
There's an underground economy. It definitely facilitates gun violence in New York, despite your strong laws.
Because no matter how strong gun laws are in New York, it's not hard to exploit huge flaws in U.S. gun policy as a whole.
The man accused of gunning down a New York City police officer, Randolph Holder. It happened on Tuesday night. Tyrone Howard said nothing as he was charged with murder. He has a rap sheet with 28 arrests. Holder is the 4th officer killed in New York City this year, and Sharika Duncan has found most of the murder weapons have one thing in common.
Fellow officers lit candles today in memory of Officer Randolph Holder. Officer Holder was shot Tuesday by a suspect he was chasing. The police say Tyrone Howard, a convicted felon, was illegally armed with a .40 caliber handgun. Holder is the 4th NYPD officer to die in the line of duty in less than a year. And while police haven't yet determined where his shooter's gun came from, the guns used to kill the 3 other officers were purchased or stolen from pawn shops in Georgia. Brooklyn District Attorney Ken Thompson.
We have the strictest gun laws in the country, and when you have lax gun laws, like down in Georgia, it's easy for people to buy guns down there legally and then send them up here, where they're destined to end up in the hands of criminals.
Last week, Thompson announced a gun ring bust that took 112 illegal guns off the streets. Investigators say the alleged ringleader, Michael Bassier, paid people with clean criminal records in Georgia and Pennsylvania to purchase firearms. Authorities took this surveillance photo of Bassier carrying the weapons in a bag, and they secretly recorded him on his cell phone.
I'm selling them the right way and the wrong way. When I'm out of state, like in Atlanta and Georgia and all that, it's all legal, it's fully legal, but New York is completely illegal.
Single year, Bassier admitted to transporting more than 112 guns, including 20 assault weapons, earning himself more than $130,000. He's now serving a 17-year prison sentence.
These are individuals who often just want to make a little money and are willing to take some risk.
Daniel Webster is director of the Johns Hopkins Center for Gun Policy and Research. He says gun runners like Bassier often rely on so-called straw purchasers to legally buy guns from dealers and gun shows in states where rules are relaxed.
So at a minimum, we need comprehensive background checks.
And he thinks a federally mandated licensing system for acquiring firearms could make a big difference. With no clear path to any bipartisan legislation in Washington, cities and states are left to tackle the bulk of the problem.
Attorney General Tish James.
Queens District Attorney Melinda Katz, State Attorney General Letitia James, and the NYPD taking their own steps. Holding a gun buyback recently, people turning in firearms for cash. They secured nearly 80 weapons in just a few hours.
These guns right here,
They are never going to hurt anybody.
In the last 7 years, at least 4 NYPD officers have been killed by weapons originally purchased or stolen from gun shops down south. And this summer, the violence is surging.
At the same time, we have seen our record gun arrests, probably the record for the last 25 years.
And now NYPD Deputy Commissioner John Miller says the department is making a historic partnership with the ATF, essentially federally deputizing officers.
So that they can access that data, make arrests as federal agents, bring those to federal court.
Allowing them to quickly track guns used in city crimes to gun shops where they were originally purchased, leading to who may have bought them, disrupting the first component of the pipeline.
That person bought 5 guns that day. You're seeing those guns turn up at multiple locations.
It's a significant but small piece in this web of violence that often results in the deaths of young black men living in inner cities.
Every day. I've never seen anything like it.
Jackie Rowe Adams knows all too well. She lost both her sons to gun violence over a 17-year span. She created an advocacy group called Harlem Mothers Save to help grieving moms like herself. She started with just 5 members. That number is now up to more than 55.
It's so many shootings, and it really takes a piece out of you. You get in that call, that phone is ringing in the middle of the night. That phone is ringing early in the morning, saying your son just got shot, or your son just got killed with an illegal gun.
Does it ever feel like you're fighting a losing battle?
I don't think we're fighting a losing battle. I think it's a very challenging endeavor because each gun that we get off the street, we potentially save a life.
90% of guns found at New York City crime scenes, Thompson told us, originate from out of state. Jerika Duncan, CBS News, Brooklyn, New York.
Yo, we back. It's your boy Popalot. Mobb ties. We on our way to NYC with it. Headshot City. But we gonna go down to Georgia. We stopping in Pennsylvania. We might stop at VA, maybe North Carolina, South Carolina. Because, shit, we riding the iron pipeline, baby. Now, today, the gentleman that we gonna be covering today is gonna be a guy by the name of Michael Bassier. But I really want to call him Stickman for some reason. The government named his alias as Dread, but he's pretty much going to be a person that's responsible for putting fire on the street. Now, this Mobb Ties episode, as much as it is about him, it's also going to be about the iron pipeline. Now, I know this is Mobb Ties, man. At least 75% of y'all know what the iron pipeline is, or have a idea of it. Now, for those of you that don't, like I always do, let me break it down. It's your boy Popalot. Now, the iron pipeline is a route that is used in the United States, according to Wikipedia, to smuggle weapons from 10 states, mostly southern United States, to mid-Atlantic states and also New England, particularly states with stricter gun laws, such as New York and New Jersey. Now, they're going to say that the term, the iron pipeline, is pretty much alias for I-95, really. And they're going to say it was dubbed that by the ATF as well as certain politicians and law enforcement officials. And an interesting report in 2010, a report published by the ATF concluded that in 2009, 10 states, Arizona, California, Georgia, Florida, Indiana, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Texas, and Virginia supplied almost half the interstate trafficked guns recovered at crime scenes nationwide. Now, that's 10 states. We got 50 states. Y'all do the math. Now, in 2015, it was a lot of rumblings about this law after it was determined that the gun that was used to shoot NYPD officer Brian Moore was stolen from a gun store in Perry, Georgia. U.S. Senator Chuck Schumer called for a federal crackdown on the iron pipeline. And this is according to a lot of sources. They're going to say 90% of the guns recovered at New York City crime scenes come from out of state. And a lot of times, a majority of the times, they're going to come from states going right through that iron pipeline. Now, according to the New York Times, they're going to say that the iron pipeline is one of the biggest factors thwarting New York in its efforts to keep guns off the street and out of the hands of criminals. Now, with that being said, I noticed in the last, I want to say 2 years, maybe year and a half, that there have been a lot of crackdowns on gun running organizations in my own state. I want to say they arrested 27 people, maybe. I want to say maybe 2.5, maybe 2 years ago. They also had a gentleman that was involved in a very high profile murder that actually beat that murder that we're going to cover on Mobb Ties, that was involved in a gun running scheme. Now, anybody that's from New York, definitely 5 boroughs, or have family or traveled, they know that you really can't go to New York and buy guns. That's the same thing with Chicago. I had a long, interesting talk with a reporter a few years back when I started Mobb Ties, and he said there's no gun stores in Chicago, just like New York. But with the level of violence going on, how? Now, recently elected New York Mayor Eric Adams has been dealing with a huge struggle coming into office with the level of gun violence going on. We talked about it a little bit in the episode that we did on the Hoolies, but I've noticed in a lot of his press conferences, sometimes directly after these crime scenes, that he's calling for federal help as far as stopping these guns coming into New York. So whether that's going to be some kind of new background check, who knows? That's going to be an uphill fight, because just the NAARA are almost a political faction themselves. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how that situation is playing out. But while they wait for some kind of federal law, it looks like they're using everything and every tool in the book to target these gun traffickers and anybody that's bringing guns into New York. If you think about it, they locked Lil Wayne up for a gun. Plaxico had a gun in the club, shot himself. They still locked him up for 3 years. They are not playing about guns. And another thing about Eric Adams is he was born in Brownsville or raised in Brownsville. So he knows, he spent his whole life dealing with this. Like in the 90s, this is almost like a reincarnation of then, but it's just so many guns on the street. Now, the situation with Michael Bassier is, well, just bringing guns to New York. He did 2 stupid things. 1, he was bringing guns to New York. 2, he was on the phone talking about it. I think they got surveillance of him, or they had his phone tapped when he was talking to an ex-girlfriend of his, and he was saying how he's walking through New York almost braggadocious, like saying he had this arsenal in his bag that he was carrying on him. They're going to say that he made upwards of $130,000 selling these guns. He was even heard on tape saying that he's selling these guns the right way and the wrong way. So that tell you what type of time that he was on. And according to pretty much NYPD law enforcement from the mayor on down, they're going to say that anybody that's bringing guns to New York know what they're going to get used for. I also seen where the NYPD brought back something that I remember from my youth, maybe my teenage years, where they had a gun buyback program where almost, I remember, if I could remember from back then, it didn't really matter the situation with the gun. You bring it in, they just really wanted to take it off the streets. Now, not a lot of people were doing that then, and I'm sure not too many people are doing it now, because the value of guns, let me kind of break it down like this to some people that think, well, why New York? Why New Jersey? All right, the value of guns in the South are almost like the value of marijuana in California. The furthest you get it from its original destination skyrockets the price, especially if that original destination has an abundance of this particular product. In California, it's going to be the marijuana. By the time it goes to New York, it skyrockets. It's going to be the same thing with the guns coming from the bottom of Georgia. By the time it reached the top of New York or New York City, that gun doubled, sometimes tripled in value. So that goes to show you how lucrative it is. But this is a game that you might as well have a stop clock with, because how many guns you think you're going to sell and bring to the city, especially at a time like this. Now, I want to say Mr. Bassier sold more than 100 guns, and this was going to be a few years back, maybe like 5 years back. They're going to say at the time that Mr. Bassier enlisted 2 co-conspirators to make gun purchases in Pittsburgh. Now, in addition to giving the straw purchasers a commission of $50 per weapon, they're going to say that he paid between $150 to $300 per gun. And there was a wide scale of weapons that he was purchasing, from 40 caliber Smith & Wessons, 45 caliber Taurus pistols, Welter model MP Uzis, 3 9mm caliber semi-automatic weapons, Narkino model SKSs, and 9mm Luger semi-automatics, Jimenez arm model JA25, and all kind of shit, man. My nigga was just bringing everything to the city. Now, Bassier would end up pleading guilty to 4 counts of first-degree criminal sale of a firearm, 2 counts of second-degree criminal sale of a firearm, and 1 count of fourth-degree conspiracy. Now, at the time, 2 of his co-defendants had also pled guilty, with charges pending for 5 others, including the out-of-state straw purchasers. Now, I'm not sure about the charges on the other people, but I know Michael Bassier was sentenced to 17 years in prison for his part in this organization. And that was pretty much like the start of it, because now 2022 is just so crazy. I want to say in this week alone, where I'm recording this Mobb Ties, today is January 24th, 2022. Not sure when this will be released, but just in this week alone, 4 NYPD officers were shot. 2, well, at the time, 1 fatally wounded right now, and this is a situation in the Bronx, with another one almost in critical condition, where they was responding to a domestic assault. Who knows? We might cover that topic on Mobb Ties, but that's just the state of New York right now, and the guns, with it being no gun stores in New York for you to purchase the guns. This is what's going on. Now, y'all make sure y'all follow me on Instagram, Twitter, POP_A_LOT. Hit the bell right under this video so y'all know when it's real trill spill shit is dropping. Now, y'all get in the comment box below. Let me know what cities we need to go to, what topics we need to tap in on, what legends we missed, what hoods we haven't been to. And y'all pretty much get at me any way y'all deem possible. Now, y'all tweet me, y'all direct message me, y'all leave a comment below, y'all email me, CC me, text me, call me, stop me in the street. However y'all want to handle it, I'm with all the shit. It's your boy Popalot. You already know what it is. The Mobb Ties.